All right, everybody, welcome on back. Continuing along our Thursday here, our Thursday afternoon, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, guys. Welcome on back for our afternoon meeting. Goes across the board here for all of us live in our trading room and across social media, Facebook and YouTube. Let's just give me a quick sound check, make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. I don't want to waste too much time, though, when we have a runner like this ABIO still pushing going into the end of this Thursday. So great to see everybody joining us, though, our usual suspects in tow live in our trading room. I of course say that in the best of light. PJ, Leda, Lawrence, Jim, John, the Marks coming in tandem. Pat, David, Kathleen, Chuck, Jeff. Great to see you all. And again, like I'd said, anyone tuning in across social media live. So you know what? I normally show the Dow to begin. I just want to show this ABIO to start, though. How could I not, really? To see the stock up 300+% going into the end of the day. Well, normally we would say, hey, for a stock up that much, really, how much more can it continue to go? But, we more so kind of say that going into the mid to late morning, going into the early to mid afternoon. And don't get me wrong, we could see profit taking here, guys, very easily. For as much as this went up, much like Fausto does say at times, for as much as you see a stock go up, you'll tend to see it drop twice as fast. But this is exactly where we would want to see ABIO right at this point. So, there was some news that came out in relation to ABIO just going into the pre-market. I'll repost it here in the trading room and of course, across social media. It says Arca Biopharma shares are trading higher after the company announced the development program for its AB201 treatment for coronavirus associated with, I'll be honest, the last word there I can't pronounce. It's a little above my pay grade. But obviously great news for ABIO in relation to potential coronavirus vaccine. So nonetheless, a huge breakout shortly after the open. But damn, this thing just keeps going. So it ended up more recently breaking pretty sharply right through resistance at 12. And at that point, it even got halted a couple of times on the way up. But, for right now, we're easily going to put this on our watch list. It's not to say it's going to be an easy trade. Of course, we hope that it is. We hope that it ends up just smooth sailing higher going into the end of the day. For a stock that's making as big of a range as this ABIO across the afternoon, guys, keep your focus on 50-cent levels and whole numbers mostly. 50-cent levels and whole numbers. And aside from that, if there's any block print, any huge iceberg order on the bid or the ask, that should be your focus. So, for right now, ABIO will lead the pack here going into the afternoon. Just put this right away on our list. All right. So aside from ABIO, the markets are still pushing up. I mean, a bit of a drop right now, I reckon, but they were holding strong. They still are holding strong so far. And I mean, I say that kind of surprised, and that's what my thought was this morning, with another big gap up, at least from the rally from yesterday afternoon, and just entirely this week. I was expecting a bit of a drop off. Now, that still might come, and I hope at this point that it really doesn't. I'd rather see the market just hold and run up. But for as much as, the Dow moved up the last 2-3 days with these big gaps and runs afterwards, you got to expect a bit of a drop off. Well, thankfully, unfortunately, I was wrong. Well, ended up pulling back shortly after the open, but ended up making a nice bounce, ended up holding, as you could see, across the day. And, just wanted to bring up the Dow, as I usually do, guys, just to show a contrast as far as some of the stocks that we tend to trade, on the gainers and losers list, and just some stocks that move with the market. So our side list stocks in particular are cruise lines, airlines, casino stocks. Although the market's holding up pretty nicely, a stock like NCLH beginning to pull back a bit. So, NCLH might end up making the watch list, guys, right away. It's a very pretty pattern on the chart for a potential short opportunity. I got to figure the rest of the cruise lines in tow. RCL, yeah, but it looks like NCLH is a sharper drop going into the afternoon. Let's take a look at, what is it, CCL. We'll go through the airlines here, perhaps. CCL a bit slower. All right. UAL a bit sharper on the way down towards that 73,000 share order on the bid. So maybe I'm right. I'd rather not be at this point, but perhaps we will end up seeing a sharper drop going into the end of the day. Delta check-in with DAL. A bit of a drop. So we'll come back to the side list stocks in a moment, guys. I see from John C., one of our new members joining us here this week. He just brought up PHAS took off. Well, I heard through my headset just before, magic order filled. And rightfully so. I am currently long on this trade from 610. just got filled. Let me set up a quick order. I'm on another screen doing this. I want to make sure, if anything, I'm break even or making a profit on this trade. So I'm going to set up a quick stop underneath me here. I appreciate the heads up, John. And like you had said, though, of course, hopefully now we could see this make a real move going into the end of the day. So to begin, we'll talk about this PHAS. We'll call it, phase, whatever you want to call it here. But, for a stock that made such a big jump up in pre-market and more so overnight, you were expecting, well, with good news comes a big move up, right? Not always. And especially for a stock that's shortable like PHAS, and it was up still like 100+% going into the open. I'm expecting a bit of a drop, a pullback, and some sell-off. So, we ended up getting just that. It ended up bouncing off of 580, moved up pretty nicely, at least going into the mid-morning, but, pulled back, and it was a bit of a dud. I was more so looking for a short here, guys. I picked up 15 or 16 cents on a short going into the afternoon. I ended up taking a small loss, trying to go the other way back around. And for since that point, it was pretty just tight, just flat, trading in a horizontal range there, at least up until now. So I like this call out, John. Really, I appreciate the heads up, because, if I didn't really see that pop, I wouldn't have, went to this right away. It's not to say that it's guaranteed it's finally bound to make this big breakout up towards $8 and much higher. But for as much of a job as it did bottoming out around 580, this could be the calm before the storm. So you know what? I'm going to put this on our list. Still up 40%. It is still shortable in case if I'm wrong in that sense and it completely craps out the other way, and I'm, my first prediction being right, then we would be able to short this on the way down. So, for right now, PHAS, I'm not going to put it near the top alongside that ABIO, but for right now, this will make our list certainly. All right, Pat picking up another 75 cents. Pat's been having a hell of a day today. One of our newer students joining us here picked up 75 cents on ABIO just now. He clocked out probably, I think, his entry was at 16.52. So he ended up getting out pretty much around 17.25. Very nice job, Pat. Excellent. All right, I got one eye on the PHAS trade as I'm in from 610, like I told you guys. So I'll let you guys know what happens on that as we kind of just scan through the percent gainers and losers list, guys. So if there's anything else aside from ABIO and PHAS, I'll let you guys know here coming up. All right, so to begin, HX, because ABIO number one, that one's already on our list. This one was looking good up until just a moment ago. See, on a stock like this, here's the danger. Because this stock was trading so much volume in pre-market, and the spreads were as tight as you could see here, bunch of volume on the book, just like right now. But I'll tell you, prior even to the 22nd, prior to, a few days back when it made this first big pop, guys, this stock is trading on average less than 60,000 shares a day. Less than 60,000 shares a day. So for a stock that's trading that much volume in pre-market, that's up that much at 9:30, this guy's going to drop. And it did. So, very quickly we moved away from this stock. I guess it ended up having a nice little squeeze up from 120 to 160. I missed out on that trade myself. I thought I saw a couple of us perhaps jump in there for a bit. But, as we ended up seeing this just try to break higher, I stayed away from this myself, just because I thought for as big of a move as it made on the way up from pre-market and, for the volume it typically trades, I just feel like a stock like this normally doesn't make a second big move going into the close. Well, this one ended up kind of making a bit of a big move, just not the one that we were looking for. So this HX trade, I hope nobody got caught on the false breakout here. It's a nice level one stock. It still is. But if it's not breaking higher, only one other way it's going to go. So we're not going to put this on our list for now. Don't be surprised, though, at the same time. And for HX, I mean, we actually saw a nice little run up going into the mid to late morning on that stock. But, perhaps next week we'll end up seeing, perhaps a little move back up again on that trade, or maybe the big move that we were hoping for earlier this morning. That PHAS trade, guys, is doing pretty damn good. It's at 633, 629, just dancing around right now. CBL, nice cheapie. 35 million shares traded already today. It trades about 6 million on average. That's a little too much right now. Here's PHAS. I don't want to jinx it. I'm not gonna show this in the trading room anymore, because I feel like if I show it, it's just gonna drop. I'll jinx it. I'll come back to it maybe at the very end, and I'll let you guys know. Of course, I'm joking around when I say that, but if it ends up running higher, I'll let you guys know as I'm scanning the market here. All right. A bunch of crap here to begin on the gainer side. I say that normally as we hop over to the losers. TCCO, a lot of activity in pre-market. Big dud shortly after the open, though, unfortunately. ORGO, nice pop earlier. I missed out on this trade at least. Around 11 o'clock Eastern time, broke out, lighter volume, it looks like, and ended up squeezing back up just recently to the highs, but ended up pulling back down a bit, as you could see there. Let's see. Any other familiar names here? The ASRT we called out just off that pop, but again, big dud. Fausto was looking at NAK, if I'm not mistaken, earlier. I think that was one of his more recent call outs going into the early afternoon. Nice trade earlier. And for what it's worth, it's still holding around that 110 support. So, you know what? I'll put this on our list. It's just, again, looking at how slow it's been across the last, 20, 30 or so minutes or more. It's level one. So I wouldn't expect, 40, 50 cent run up on this trade. It's already moved up just about 20 or 30 cents, from low to high, or, a little bit more perhaps. But, for right now, we'll put this on our list in hopes of a higher high, a breakout over 118 or over 120 going into the close. A couple other familiar names, at least. And SNCA from last week popped and ran for us, but pulled right back down. And today, not really doing too much. ALT, this thing's been a monster. Last week and a half, this thing's been on fire from 4 to basically 11. Today ended up making more of a lower volume run up. I chickened out on this trade. I probably should have just stayed in. I had an entry around 8:30ish or so around here. I think it was shortly after this pop, and I should have known to stay in. I was up a little bit. It was pulling back. I ended up taking a 6-cent profit of all things, and just ended up running up right after. So can't be perfect on them all, and at least for right now, it hasn't broken a new high just yet. A lot of volume just came in a moment ago when it tried to. 2:17 Eastern time. Looks like a lot of prints filled off of 896, $9 as expected, and actually some little bit higher, 905, 908. Yeah, I'm not going to put this on our list for right now, though, guys. Great side list stock if you want to keep ALT just on the back burner, the side list for the meantime. Try and focus on this trade in pre-market if this is, pretty active in pre-market. If it's holding underneath or approaching a significant level, it's, a great setup in that circumstance. But for right now, just, push it to the side. IFRX, again, same thing. Look at the gap that this thing made on the daily chart. Why I'm so enticed by this stock is just what you see on the daily chart here. Huge drop off going back into the summer of last year from basically 35 to like, what is that, like $4, $5 that was. So it's been squeezing up over time. We've been calling this out more off than on. It's kind of low volume, but I've been looking for this to make a huge pop, fill the gap. And, we called it out earlier, just big dud once more. So, hopefully this will have a more active morning, perhaps tomorrow or going into next week. All right, guys. All right, let's hop over to the losers list here. I want to see any other familiar names on the gainers side. Oh, speaking of gap fills, how about this? Torque. These were the two actually that I was they don't move together at all really, but they both have huge gaps to fill on the daily chart. This torque trade also, I was calling out off of resistance 250. This is a great setup, or at least it was from earlier. It's pulling back down now, so we're not going to follow this at least today, but another one just to keep it, just in the back of your head in case if you end up seeing, a strong resistance, there's a big gap to fill on the daily chart. All right, let's hop over to the losers list, guys, seeing if there's anything on that side of the field. A bunch of crap hard to borrow, as expected. Hertz, LK, also, as expected, leading the losers list here, both dumping off heavily. LK at 2, and Hertz, I don't even know where. Where is this at right now? 108? Yeah. So Hertz, definitely, I'm not going to focus on this any further. We were watching this yesterday. It was a great trade past 2 days, but I feel like the run is over on that, the short squeeze up. LK might have more room perhaps, but I'm not banking on that entirely, especially not today with this downtrend. But given the range on the daily chart across the last month and a half, 2 months, perhaps we could have some more interest on this one. But like I said, not today at least. VHC, this one I do like. I mean, you can't argue the trend. It's shortable. Right now, not much support showing. It looks like, 655. It looks like 645. Maybe just some scattered orders out there on the book. I would assume 650 to be a big level, just nothing really showing there currently at the time. Kind of similar to NAK. I'm going to put this on our list. Just, it's not near the top so far. I think so far we only have 4 stocks entirely on our afternoon list. I'm trying to do as good of a job as possible at keeping it super simple, right? So let's see if there's anything else. It's not too big, so we could probably put a few on from the side list. Six Flags dropping off very nicely. $24 or so stock. It is shortable. It just broke below big support. You could actually see on the time and sales, big iceberg filled at 24.50. So this one definitely on our list, just based on the recent break of big volume-based support. It's shortable. This has been a side list stock, kind of. We've been focused more on the airlines, cruise lines, casinos, but hey, entertainment stocks too, not just for Six Flags here, but let's also take a look while we're at it at Play, Dave & Buster's. Yeah, nice drop. Just slammed underneath 14. So, you know what? Maybe I pair these together. I wouldn't mind doing that. Play and 6. We'll kind of put together 2 entertainment companies, Dave & Buster's, Six Flags. They were moving similarly just a month and a half ago, just as the big drop-off, happened. And both, of course, moving somewhat similarly now. All right, so what else do we have on the loser side? We have 6, LPG maybe, LTPRA. Let's see. Mark ended up just getting crushed a moment ago. I don't know what the news was on that. I think it could be news of direct offering of shares. This thing's pretty volatile. I'm going to stay away from stocks like this. I'm also going to stay away from the, which one was it just before, guys? We were just talking about it here in the trading room in the chat board. Oh, oh my goodness, the GNUS. I'd be remiss to not even mention GNUS today, at least. We're not going to trade it this afternoon, but man, this thing had a huge run up going into the afternoon, didn't it? So alongside ABIO, I have to say this was really the star of the afternoon until, well, obviously you see what happens. It ended up dumping off just out of nowhere. News came out about a direct offering of shares. I think it was priced at like $1.50 even. But man, this thing ended up dumping off well, no pun intended, but perhaps pun intended. It was dumping off like a sinking ship. So NCLH, we're going to put on our watch list at this point. NCLH, I wouldn't mind just saying airlines, cruise lines here, but in particular, NCLH, I do like UAL, just, a little sharper move from the airline sector. AAL, I feel like is a little slower. AAL dumped off, I think, 30% of their mid-level staff today, I think. That came out, so maybe AAL could be a good move. It's hard to borrow, though, so you can't get the shares to short it. But otherwise, though, guys, it just seems like a good day for the side list at this point. We'll check back in once more with the Dow. And since I last touched base with it, well, we started the meeting at 2:30. Yeah, the market's dumped off just about 60, 70 points. So, good day to follow the market. Unfortunately, we might be getting a bit of a pullback going into the close, it seems like. But otherwise, try and make your money on the short side if you're following stocks that move with the market. Otherwise, just because the market's pulling back doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to pull back. I'm still hoping a stock like the PHAS trade ends up holding, squeezing up much higher going into the close. I'm still long on this trade, like I told you guys, from 610, although it's kind of pulling back right now. I have a stop set underneath that price at least. So if you watch me get my ass handed to me live right now, guys, I have a tight stop. So if anything, I think it's a 6-cent stop or a 6-cent loss. It's oh, what am I doing here? It's at 604, I believe my stop is set. It's not breaking higher, so it doesn't seem like it's ready to make that big breakout just yet. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, anything else that you would want me to look at here in the chat board or anything else across social? ABIO still going, says Daniel. Holy smokes. Yeah, you could say that. Got to be careful for a whole number, not just a whole number, guys, because it was blowing through certain price levels like 18, 19 just now. But for a decade number, $20, that I put even more weight on as a key level. Of course, it just bounced off of 1996 of all prices, 4 cents under that decade number, and then just, dumped off a whole buck. All right. So, guys, if there's anything else here in the chat board, definitely let me know. We have a good list now at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stocks to work with in total going into the close. And I feel like ABIO counts as like 4 stocks at once, just given how fast it's moving. What do I think about DZNOY? Something tells me that's an OTC stock. Yep. So we don't tend to trade OTC stocks here, Joseph. Our focus is more so stocks that are just listed across the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, the Amex as well. We tend to use the same, or rather, you can use the exact same strategy that, we teach in our stock trading class on OTC stocks, but our focus is on otherwise stocks that are listed on the major, exchanges. One of my best friends is very heavy into Nintendo NTTOY OTC stock. He's been doing pretty good, at least since March. Told me to get in. I'm too busy elsewhere, guys, with all of these stocks that we're calling out otherwise. Latest says JCPenney's is now an OTC stock. I thought I saw that, right? And it's a different symbol too, right? It's not just JCP, of course, as you could see here. I think it's like JCP.P, or I don't know the symbol anymore. All right, guys. Well, either way, we are good to go. We have a good watch list going into the end of this Thursday for right now. So what I'll do is I'll post and tweet the list as always. That goes across the trading room and across social media. Aside from that, myself and Fausto will both be back in the trading room heading into the end of the close here with you guys. So best of luck trading going into the end of the day. But aside from that, for all of us on social media, Facebook and YouTube, for those of you that would like to learn more about what we tend to offer here at Cyber Trading University, our online trading room, our online course room, for all of our students, keep in mind, phase 2, we will be finishing that up tomorrow afternoon live. Just make sure that you guys call the phone number down below, just on the banner. One of our education advisors will gladly pick up and provide more detail. All right, guys, aside from that, as I always like to say, let's try and close out this Thursday just as well as we had opened it up. Take care.